Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. Thank you as always for tuning back in. I'm so happy to be doing a pick a card reading today. I've been wanting to do one for a while and I've been a little bit busy. You might know that I travel around quite a bit, and the New Year transition has been a little bit busy for me. I also have some projects in the works as well, and I'll keep you posted about these for sure. So we are doing a pick a card reading today, and I'll be using 3 decks for the 3 options. Now, before I get into our charms and our decks, I want to focus on the changes that are ahead, the opportunities and the challenges. So I'm really looking at this like a bigger overview kind of pick a card, and I'm timing it with the beginning of the year. So in conjunction with your astro clock and your monthly and weekly readings, I thought this pick a card might be helpful to sort of help us vision the year ahead, if you know what I mean. So I've got the feather, and I've got the dice and the scissors. So we'll be doing 3 different readings, but I'll be using all 3 decks in each of the readings. So I'll be doing today a 3-dimensional portrait, so a 3x3 portrait, and these are quite a favorite among you. It's becoming one of my favorites as well, and I'm looking to be doing a workshop on this down the line a little bit later, so stay tuned for that. So the 3 decks that we're using today are the Game of Hope, the Titania's deck, and my own deck, and I like to use them in this order. So this deck being the first layer, and then the second one being the second, and my deck being the third, because it helps us see the cards because of their size. So that is our intention for today. This is the setup for today. By all means, feel free to pause the video if you tune into which charm you want to resonate with for this reading, and I will see you in your reading. Okay, starting with you, Feather Group, let us go ahead and deal out your first layer portrait. I've got here the Game of Hope, and I am doing a 9-card portrait. This is one of our favorites. Let's lay out and see what we get for you. Okay, Feather Group, here we are with your first layer of portrait. And my intention is for the portrait, this first layer of portrait, be about changes. And I'm seeing some changes indeed for you, Feather Group, and there are some challenging cards. We have the mouse, the snake, and the whip is a pretty challenging card. We have the dog in the middle here. This is quite telling, and I really appreciate that it figures right in the middle of the portrait because it's expressive. We have this energetic line really pointing to the changes now with the stork and rider on the other side of the anchor. And we have this curious diagonal here with the book, and let's see what the book ends up suggesting in this reading. So let's go ahead and weave the lines together. As you know, Feather Group, we always read the lines from the bottom up. It helps us put the picture together, although often just looking at a portrait or any layout, we can also get a sense of what's going on. So the mouse as your first card here, Feather Group, this really points to the idea of trust. I really think this is what's in focus because we have a relationship element that comes right in the middle of your portrait. So you could be putting some people into question, and I think you could be feeling maybe drained or tired of putting up with some types or some people. With the dog and stork, there are definitely some changes when it comes to relationships, Feather Group, and we're going to see this clearly in other combinations as well. In the second diagonal, we have the book, dog, and anchor, and this can mean that you're looking to make new connections. So it looks like some people are about to fall out of your life, or perhaps you're giving up on certain relationships. You could be moving away from some of them and wanting to make new connections. Now, I have to say, Feather Group, this isn't just necessarily within your personal life. This can be about friends and people who are closer to you. It can also be about people in your work life. It can also be in your business life. Perhaps you have tried with some customers or with some people in your work environment, and it's not really working, it's not really helping. So you could be looking at making new connections and expanding this area of your life in order to, to create more opportunity for yourself and to create healthier connections in your life. So it's definitely at this level of your 3D portrait focused on your connections. In a deeper sense, and we'll see this all throughout, you could be putting into question the kinds of people you're around. We see this quite often, well, reasonably often in some readings, Feather Group. The reason I feel is because, life is a mirror, and the people in our life reflect us. And when we go through changes, we tend to outgrow certain people, certain places. So you could be looking at something like this happening for you. Now, the mouse and the snake and anchor, this is quite tricky. We have both the mouse and snake, and we also have the anchor. So this can go in a couple of ways. For one, you could be looking at creating some healthier boundaries, some stronger boundaries, because it seems that some people sort of take from you, and you don't want that. They take without giving back. So there isn't like a healthy exchange or a positive energy between the two of you. It sounds like it's something that's draining you, and that's something you want to put an end to. And in another sense, there are some aspects of all of this that you want to focus a little bit more on. So maybe understanding this better, or maybe giving it a second chance. And also in general, working cautiously and carefully, and also with quite a lot of self-confidence and having faith in yourself. So this to me means that you're entitled to make these sorts of decisions, and that you also want to get a good sense of where you stand relative to some people and some relationships. Now, the bear, dog, and rider is positive. Here we're seeing the other side of this, where you could be moving on to making stronger and better connections. This could be a suggestion to reach out, to get in touch. And it could also have a bit of a flip side, although the cards in and of themselves, these three, they're quite positive. It's really the surrounding cards that could bring out the suggestion, and that is the idea of maybe confronting certain things, maybe standing your ground a bit like the anchor in the face of certain relationships. So again, I'm getting a good sense of boundaries, and also a sense of connection and communicating, and possibly taking that step in understanding what's going on in the relationship. The bottom row is pretty challenging, Feather Group. We've got the book, whip, and stork. And the whip and book can bring something out into the open. And actually the stork contributes to that as well. The rider can contribute to that as well. So here the picture is coming together. We are seeing that something comes out, like I felt, you could be the one who brings it out. Perhaps it's something that happens. There's an opportunity to bring something out into the open, and this highlights the different aspects of the relationships that you're putting into question at this stage. The mouse, bear, and book really tells me that something was held off, and I think this contrasts well with the rest of the cards, especially this side here, where there's this action and action forward. You take steps, to understand the relationship, to set these boundaries, to manage expectations, to say what you need to say. For a while, it looks like it wasn't. The snake, dog, and whip here, I have to say, Feather Group, this is potentially the more challenging line of your reading, along with probably the bottom line. We also have the snake in this one, and here is where we clearly see that some relationships fall out because of some disappointment. The anchor, rider, and stork is very much about picking up and making changes, and I really like seeing this line in the right hand side, because it tends to be associated with the future-most and outcome aspects of a reading. So we see that in the face of the challenges, you are doing something about this. You're going to make changes, you're going to set expectations, boundaries, move on, find new people, so you're really shaking up this social environment in your life. And like I said, Feather Group, this can be in your personal life, like friends. It could be in a specific group of friends, like maybe an activity or something that you're part of. It can be on the job, and it could be in your business, or maybe in your professional life. In a deeper sense, maybe in a more general sense, Feather Group, you could be looking at assessing a little bit of your social life, just sort of wondering, who are those people you are with, if they are supportive, if this is what you want in friendships, and you could be making changes in a real way. I really feel that something comes up that puts into question this area of your life, and this really triggers the changes that you're about to go for. So quite a reading, I have to say, Feather Group, very much focused on your social circle or your a group of people around you can bring about changes. I'm sure you're up for them, and I think it's healthy for you to look at this. Let's move on to the second layer of your portrait feather group. I'm using Titania's deck for this one. Okay, look at these cards. There, so many of them mirror what we see in your first layer, so I'm really getting a stronger confirmation of what we talked about in your first layer. Look at the dog, the book, the coffin in the middle, the ring. The ring is about relationships. We have the bear as well, and we have the mountain. Now, the mountain is not a card that we find in your first layer, but it has similar energies. It has that energy of distance and separation, and certainly with the coffin in the middle. So feather group, this is going to be confirming the end of certain relationships, the end of certain connections. In the first diagonal, we have the mountain, coffin, and bear. And the mountain is your cover card, so it gives you a key advice. It is, we read the first card a little bit differently than the rest of the cards normally. I do have these suggestions in the combination master as well. And it's clear to me that you are taking a step back and you're distancing yourself. Yes, you could be traveling, but I think in terms of the theme that we're going after here, it's very clear to me that you're taking a big step back. You are taking time out. Could mean you go somewhere or not, but the idea is that you're getting away from a certain environment. And with the bear here, you could be making a big change. Yes, this can also mean that you move, and perhaps that's how you end up making all sorts of changes in your connections and your environment. But if not, there's still this main message, this key message that's about moving away from certain environments, from a certain place, and bringing something to a head and an ending. This is very clear from the coffin. The lily, coffin, and dog adds to that. The coffin and dog is about friendships and relationships. We're going to see this with the ring as well. The lily with the coffin would mean, in this sense, in my first take, the idea of the closure of a phase. Sometimes I would read these two cards as pointing to health, feather group. I don't think this is immediately relevant to the current theme, but there might be a situation where someone or yourself, you're not feeling well, and it's time to take time out. But I really feel that the relationship aspect is the stronger suggestion of the cards. So in the second diagonal, we see this with the dog. Now here's an interesting line that brings solutions and answers. The mountain, key, and dog is solutions and answers and opportunities, possibly in a different place. I feel this suggestion aligns with the idea that we saw in your first portrait, where we suggested that you're looking in a different direction. You might be looking at a different group of people, different people for answers. Because as it stands, you're shaking things up, and some people, they're not really fitting for you. The letter, coffin, and book can bring news, except that with the coffin, it would take a bit of time. Normally, with the letter and book together, we would see news that typically arrives quickly, but with the coffin, it's going to slow things down. I also think, in alignment with the general theme, or the main theme, this suggestion here, feather group, is that you could be announcing that you're leaving, or this is about communicating the changes. Now, because the coffin sort of separates the letter and book a little bit, and the book is about quietness and secrecy, it tends to be closed. It is in this deck, and it follows the coffin. It might be a good suggestion to hold off on really expressing or speaking these things out, and instead the coffin, it's helping you chew a little bit on the matter, thinking things through, taking your time with the decision. This actually works really well with the mountain, because the mountain it's distant, it goes on its own, and it takes a big step back, especially with these cards. So I would say, feather group, it's not a bad idea to take a bit more time as you think about what is it you're changing, what is it that you want really, before you go ahead and announce changes, say that you're moving from here, going to there, letting go of this, and confronting certain people. Now, the lily, ring, and bear points to an important relationship that you have. The bear is about anything big and influential, and the lily can actually add to that because it tends to be associated with people who are senior and experienced. And with the ring here, you could be looking at tapping into some important connections to help you through. Perhaps this is about decisions that you're making, Feather Group, in relation to people, in relation to involvements, and you might want to tap into certain people who could give you some insights. And we see this in the top row as well, notice. Now, the mountain, letter, and lily, this would typically be about work. It would be very good for work. It can point to a contract. It could point to some agreement. There can be some communications about work potential. In the context of this bigger change, you could be looking at reaching out to these people. They could be in a different place. It could be taking a bit more time, like we saw. But the idea is to reach out to certain people who can help you make these bigger decisions surrounding this ending that you're after, Feather Group. The key, coffin, and ring is a very clear combination of an ending. And with the key, it is actually encouraged, so it's a good time to bring things to a close. And with the dog, book, and bear, this is where we see that there are new prospects and new people that you're going to meet and new opportunities that you're probably going to walk into. In this sense, Feather Group, you could be looking at making a change in your work, and we did suggest that in your first layer portrait, we did suggest that the relationship aspect can't figure in your job environment. This would be a portrait that supports that very well. You could be looking at a new opportunity, maybe you're changing jobs, and you're sort of working through that. So timing this is very important. The coffin is a slower card, and it's right in the middle of your portrait. It's a very good idea to take your time to make decisions. In the meantime, get advice, follow up, get in touch with people who can give you ideas to go through this transition. And then you'll be ready to open up into this new chapter with new connections and a new opportunity as far as I can tell. Okay, let's move on to your third portrait layer. This is my own deck. It's the smallest one, and I just love how the bigger deck, is at the bottom. It helps you see things better. It creates a nicer sort of visual interaction with the cards here. So let's deal out this third portrait. Okay, Feather Group, I am seeing a turnaround here. I think there are some really good messages. We have the clover. We have the rider in the middle. We saw the rider here. Second time, I think, where we see the rider in your cards. We're seeing the man. I suspect the man is the bear guy here with the ring. This relationship is coming through. And the fish is actually the card of money and enterprise, and it's very good for abundance and success in these ways. It's also really good with your personal goals, and I really like seeing it with the rider, because the rider is another card about goals, and it has that sense of pull forward. It has pull power, to move you towards your ambitions. And the mountain is again that card that we saw, I think, twice now, and it possibly has to do with a different place, or it has to do with overcoming your obstacles. And again, I'm still seeing a suggestion of possibly moving away and sort of going off on your own and creating that distance that seems to be needed for you between yourself and other people or another situation. But the fish and rider is really good for money, and it's really good for your goals in general. And with the mountain, you could be looking at going beyond your current scope. So it can be going abroad, it can be having some kind of international outreach, or online and things like that. But it is also very good to suggest the idea with the rider that you go beyond your current sort of surrounding, so it's really going beyond these borders, as it were. The house, rider, and clover is also a very bright combination. The clover is one of the luckiest cards of the deck, It sounds like you know that these goals that you're after are going to be good for you. The house can point to a meeting in this context. It can also point to a visitor. It can point to someone you visit. There is contact that is clearly coming through these cards, and we see this with the man as well. So the fish, man, and house can actually point to a business. It can be a meeting, a business meeting. I'm seeing there is an interaction here that opens doors for you. And we see this clearly with this man. He could be someone who makes a decision. He could be someone who comes with the ideas. He could be someone you collaborate with or you partner with. And he could be one of those new people you end up attracting in your life once you've decided to make a change from your current situation. Now, the bear, rider, and clouds is an empowering line. The bear and rider really asks you to have courage to move forward. The clouds is going to bring up some challenges, but with this combination, Feather Group, I'm not seeing that this is about avoiding the challenges. It's about facing up to the challenges, and you are going to figure them out as you go. There can be some problem solving, some brainstorming, maybe some strategizing and planning that you need to do. That is fine, regardless of the exact detail here that figures for you. The idea with the bear and rider is really to go for it, even if you don't have a 100% image just yet. I think everything else is pointing to the changes, and certainly the other layers pointed to the changes as well, Feather Group. We've got the clover, mouse, and mountain, and this is a confirmation of this, so you will overcome these obstacles. The mouse and mountain is like a bump, something you need to overcome, and the clover really helps you overcome that. I think issues of trust can also be resolved moving forward for you, Feather Group, but I also think that the notion of boundary is maintained. I think what you're overcoming is what you're moving forward toward is creating a better sense of boundaries around you, and this is something you carry with you as you move into this new opportunity. The fish, bear, and clover is lovely. This is clearly a wonderful step up, a wonderful opportunity. It can be financial, it can be practical in other ways. I also have a feeling, Feather Group, that in view of everything else that's going on, you sort of want to prioritize this area of your life right now. And we were looking at these social things in your first portrait, and it was mirrored in the second portrait. It seems to me that perhaps in the coming phase, you might want to focus on your work and practical picture, your money picture, more than the social aspect of things, if that makes sense. And it sounds like it's the time for that, and there's opportunities to do that, so might as well take advantage of them. The man, rider, and mouse, again, the rider and mouse, a bit like the rider and mountain and the rider and clouds. I'm seeing some speed bumps ahead, Feather Group. The man here can sort of slow things down. Maybe he causes some of them. Maybe you have to, negotiate certain things and work through them. But these cards here in combination with the rider, they clearly suggest that you're in for a few speed bumps. But again, this isn't a reason to back away from this. It's just preparing you to face up to a few changes, to a few things that you need to deal with ahead. The house and the clouds and mountain. Again, I'm seeing the idea that some things, they're not really working out, and that's a reason why you're making these changes. The clouds and the house here can point to an environment where things are a bit tense, where there isn't a lot of transparency. And with the mountain, we have this, this idea is supported. It's like there's no access, there's like these blockages, and it's kind of stuck, and it's not really moving. And I think this is really why you are moving. So the environment itself is not really changing, and so you're the one who changes. And that is the wise thing to do, Feather Group, in life across the board. The rider is your middle card. It is an action card. The fish is your cover card, really gives you the main advice. So focus on your own interests at this time. I have a feeling that you may have been over-invested in some relationships, and that's why we were getting, all of these, putting in question certain connections. And we saw it again here in your second portrait. And now we're seeing the idea of moving forward, having to to make changes in your life, because around you it's not changing. So that will help you take steps forward, and it's also going to help you prioritize the practical, the money aspect of your life, really focusing on this moving forward. Some people help, but they're also sort of, these also a bit slow here. I'm seeing this man helpful, yes, but prepared to have to negotiate and be patient a little bit as you make this transition into reshuffling things a little bit, Feather Group. So with this said, now let's bring the portraits together by looking at the 3D aspect of it. We have 3 levels of portraits, so I like to combine this. It's one of my favorite parts to look at: the mouse, mountain, and fish. So yeah, we're seeing the mountain here, the mountain and mouse. We saw it twice. So clearly there is this obstacle that you need to overcome. The fish can mean that it is an obstacle with your money, with your practical life. Maybe you need to put your house in order in this regard, Feather Group, and this is what you might want to focus on. These are your cover cards, so they are some of the more important cards in your portrait. So I would say prioritize this aspect of your life for the time being, Feather Group, and maybe forget to some extent the other aspects, especially the social aspect here, as you put in question some connections. Here is the snake, the key, and the bear. This is a nice combination. I really like the snake and key together. This is someone who's very clever. And with the bear, this is someone who is influential. I really feel, Feather Group, that you are able to tap into some of your connections to achieve the goals that you want. And we saw this in here as well. We saw this in the second portrait where we got the bear again. So we're getting a confirmation of you needing to tap into some connections to get what you want. And it's very clear to me from this combination that you'll be able to charm them away and win them over to your side. Let's look at this aspect. This is nice. The anchor, dog, and clover. This is really reassuring to tell us that despite the changes, Feather Group, there are people who stand with you and there are people whom you stand with. And again, I really think this is the type of combination, in light of what we saw across the portraits, that tell you that you need to be discerning about the kinds of people in your life, and that healthy boundaries do create good relationships. And we're seeing this very clearly in this triplet. So there are some relationships that are supportive, others not so much. The bear and the letter and the man. So we're seeing the bear 3 times. Right, so the bear appears in all 3 layers. So that's a sign, as far as I'm concerned. It really highlights the importance of the bear in your reading. The bear, letter, and man points to big news, important news, and also it seems that this is the person who is in a position of sorts, who has the influence to support, and this is the person you reach out to, for this opportunity, for the changes that you're making. So the bear really encourages you and asks you to step up and to, be up to this. Here is part of what has been the main theme throughout: the dog and the coffin and the rider. This can be the end of the road with some connections. You could also be moving on from a certain situation. You could be outgrowing it. The dog tends to be a junior card, and it often shows up, with the bear. It tends to suggest the idea of going from junior to senior, and that can be in any area of your life, at work, in your personal life, in some relationships. There is this idea of outgrowing certain people, places, and circumstances. And I see this is happening for you, Feather Group, but I have to say, I feel it's happening in a softer kind of way. So it's like, I feel it's maybe happening more on the inside for you, and you're looking at making these changes and assessing your connections and tapping into this connection to see what opportunity is available to you. We have the rider, book, and mouse, and this can point to some of the obstacles that I'm seeing are ahead as you make this transition. It's a bit like the rider, with the clouds, with the mouse itself. We're seeing it here as well. And with the book, there are some unknown elements. We saw this in the second column here. So we're getting another confirmation that you're going to be moving forward with a bit of uncertainty, and you'll be fine. Okay, Feather Group, so just keep moving forward. It sounds like moving is better. Moving and changing and letting go is better than stalling. Okay, this is a clear message through the cards. Let's look at this one, the book, Lily, and House. This is interesting, and we're getting the book a second time, but in this context, the book can mean something else. The book can mean learning, and with the Lily and House, you could be going for a course or something educational. You could be writing and publishing. You could be maybe studying for a career. You could also be looking at maybe a home-based business or some kind of activity that you could look into a little bit more at this time. I really think this is a wonderful triplet. I think it works really well with the idea of you prioritizing your work and money life. And I think that you might want to take a bit of time out to consider what kind of projects you might want to create for yourself, Feather Group. So I think you're pulling yourself back from relationships that are not really fruitful. It sounds like you don't want to waste your time too much on some people, some places, some environments, and instead you sort of want to take care of yourself a bit more, checking in with where you're heading, what opportunities you could get, tapping into this person, or maybe some studying that you can do, some research, maybe some opportunities, potentially some creative ventures here for yourself. What about this one? Here is another relationship problem kind of triplet. Clearly the whip and ring, and the ring and clouds. Clearly this is bringing up the end of some relationships, like we saw here, like we saw in the a lot in the first and second portraits, and we're seeing this confirmation here. So hard to miss, Feather Group, that you're pulling back from some relationships. I think you want to make better use of your time moving forward. Really consider that. Consider what you're investing yourself in. It's never a bad time to check in with this, actually. And let's look at this last one, the stork and the bear and mountain. So this would be an ideal combination for a move to a different country. I have to be straightforward in this way. Maybe this is something you're contemplating. We saw the mountain a few times. We've got the house card. We've got the rider. The mountain is part of your cover cards. And the bear and mountain is a specific meaning. It suggests the idea of being based abroad, and so with the stork you could be making a move in this sense. So this could apply to you for some of you, and in this sense this is where you're sort of recollecting yourself from certain relationships, making sure who's who and who's not going to be carried forward, if we can put it this way. But if it's not about a move, it is definitely about positive changes and stepping up and really climbing that mountain. These are active cards, and it's about going after what you want. And there is a sense of growing up and stepping up that we're seeing in your cards as well. So overall, Feather Group, the cards have a lot of depth, but they are also a little bit muted. So it sounds like this change and this transformation is happening with not much fanfare on your part. You're reassessing your relationships. You're looking at other opportunities. There are some people or this person who could support you with that. You could be moving forward with not all of the knowledge and information that you would ideally have, but that is fine. Expect a few bumps and you'll overcome them. And also, create some boundaries. Take yourself back from relationships or involvements that are not particularly fruitful, and really have a look at your opportunities, how you can, improve your situation financially, practically with work, possibly looking at a business that you could start or something that you could be creative with. In the process, you could be learning a few things from some people or asking some questions. You will find that people come to you for support, but you have to have that sense of discernment, and you're going to make a distinction between, people who are basically wasting your time and involvements that are basically wasting your time, and those that aren't. And I feel that you're ready now for a bit of a a bit of a change and an improvement in your life as a whole. So they have a lot of depth. These are big steps that you're taking, but it seems like the energy of it, the way it unfolds, is kind of calm and quiet and a bit inward. Remember that you're distancing yourself from quite a lot of things, and that is probably going to be key for you. That distance often helps you get perspective. And then once you have a bit more clarity, you're going to come back out and do some research, ask questions, and see, start making those moves, as it were. Expect to, bump in a few different places. That's fine. It's part of the learning process, but keep moving forward at that point. Interesting cards, Feather Group. I like them. Let me know what you made of them. Let me know what transition you're going through. Do you feel it is in the context of the new year, or just in general it was happening for you? Leave me your thoughts and comments. As always, best of luck with this, and I hope you've enjoyed it, and I'm looking forward to our next Pick-A-Card reading. So thank you for watching, and until next time, take very good care of yourself. Hello Dice Group, welcome to your reading. I am starting with the Game of Hope deck, and then we'll do Titania's, this one, and my own. So let's go ahead and start with this first layer of portrait. Let us look at the changes, the challenges, and your aspirations that are ahead, and the opportunities. And I could divide this up into the first layer, second layer, and the third. But honestly, I don't think it's going to play out in a clear-cut way like this. I think we need to go with the cards and see what they tell us at every layer, and then we'll bring all three together. So let's go ahead and start with the first layer here. Okay, Dice Group, this is an exciting 3x3 portrait. The anchor in the middle is in contrast to the stork, the rider, and the road here. It tends to be associated with staying put, whereas these other cards, they're about changes. But we don't have to have contradictions in the Lenormand deck, because the way we combine the cards is up to us, first of all, and second, it is in light of the other cards as well. So when I see the child and anchor, this points to a definite new beginning. And the child and ring, there is clearly a new involvement. The child and road, there's a new beginning. So instead, this anchor in the middle is really about finding your ground. And I think that this is about making changes in order to find that ground, one. Two, it is about having confidence in yourself to make those changes. And also what could happen is that you want to develop a bit more flexibility in view of these cards. The anchor can be a bit of a rigid card. And when we see the stork as your cover card, which offers you the main advice, it could be telling us that you want to be a little bit more open-minded about the possibilities that could lie ahead for you, Dice Group. And we see here that there are amazing possibilities and lots of wonderful positive energies coming to you. So let's weave these lines in turn. We've got the stork and the anchor and the fish. The fish is normally the money card. It's about the practical things in life: work, money, business, income, enterprise. It's also really good with goals and aspirations, and it is also associated with independence. I really feel that with these change cards, and we're gonna get into their details, you could be looking at creating that secure foundation for yourself, especially with a card like the anchor. Like, you want to now make changes in order to create something solid for yourself and to have self-reliance and independence. And so this can cause some changes. This can require some changes in your life, Dice Group, and also some actions that you need to take. So you need to pick up and make changes and move into some new beginnings here. We have the clover, anchor, and child. This is a wonderful combination. The clover is one of the brightest cards of the deck, so it really blesses you with this new beginning and this forward movement. And the anchor has that sense of certainty. And so with the child, the way we see this is that it is definitely time for a new beginning. And it is definitely a good time for a new beginning. So those changes that you have in mind, those steps forward that you want to take, the cards are really encourage you to embrace that and to go for it. The Stork, Road, and Child is a very clear message. This is a new beginning. This is a new road. It is a new direction. And again, the cards are encouraging you to pursue this. The child is also in and of itself a happy card. It is very much about being open-minded, and you know how there is that sense of innocence that children have. So there is that playfulness that you want to embrace as you explore these options and make these changes. The cross, anchor, and ring. Now this is a powerful line. The anchor and ring has to do with staying connected, sticking with a certain relationship. And the cross has to do with decisions, and it can be a bit challenging. I don't see it particularly challenging in this context because there are beautiful cards around here, but it's still an important card in the sense that it highlights the deeper aspects of your life and the bigger questions in your life. With the anchor and ring, what I'm seeing here is that you are going to need to assess what stays because there are changes. The cross has that decision-making element, and it can also bring into the picture your sense of priority. You know, there are potentially sacrifices that you make, you know, you weigh things out like that. And with the anchor and cross, the message, especially in view of everything else that's going on here, it's about you're going to have to assess what stays and what leaves. So when you make the changes, when you leave, when you pursue this new path, okay? So this is something you're going to have to think about. The clover, rider, and fish is lovely for your financial goals. It can point to income sources. It can suggest that there is exciting things happening for you. It's very good for achieving your goals, for going after your ambitions. So again, I'm seeing that you could be pursuing a deeper sense of independence, a resourcefulness, a sense of self-reliance, and you could be pursuing new opportunities. And the clover really blesses this pursuit and really encourages you to go for it because it sounds like you will actually land on what you want. So we see this very, very clearly in the right-hand side column, and it's really nice to see it in this side. Let's back up to the first one. We've got the clover cross and the stork cross and clover, and this is a nice combination. You know, both the cross and clover have that sense of destiny. There's that sense of fortune, the idea that not everything is in your control, and that there is like a deeper guidance at play here. And I feel that with the stork, you're really guided towards making these changes. It sounds like you know that it's time, you know what is in alignment with you, and so the cards really encourage you to go for that, you know, and to also tap into your inner wisdom, your sense of your deeper understanding of the currents of your life. You know, these are at play right now. They're coming through to the surface, so you want to resonate with that. The road, anchor, and rider is a very beautiful combination for achievement. It would be more ideal if the anchor came after the rider, because there's like the movement and the landing. But still, you know, the cards support this idea of pursuing something and to find where you're going to land. The anchor and rider is also very good for achieving objectives. Like we said, the rider is a card of goals, and it has to do with initiative and going after what you want. And so this is a very encouraging line to really pursue what you want at this point, dice group. Now this lovely line, child, ring, and fish, is all about a new relationship, and one that has a really good money and practical financial income. So this can be a new job, it can be a new customer, it can be a new source of income in a broader sense. It doesn't have to be related to work. In fact, I don't have many work cards per se. I do have the money card, but not so much the job and, you know, career cards. But you could be pursuing like a project or making changes that enable you to create that greater sense of security for yourself, more income, more prosperity, and beyond the money aspect. You know, it's really clear from this line that you land on this new beginning. You know, and because the ring is a card of involvement, and it has an element of repetition and continuity. So it's like you've done the changes here, and now you've found your, you know, the new routine, the new zone that you're in, kind of thing. And so it is very beautiful with the fish. In addition to the other cards here that are all of them are supportive. Really, there are no challenging cards in this portrait. So that really tells us that you're in for a new direction, like in a nutshell. And that this direction seems to be most closely associated with the money picture, the independence, you know, your sense of resourcefulness and the practical aspects of your life. And it's very clear that you are in for a new beginning. It's looking successful. So this is a lovely portrait. Let's see if we get maybe more challenging messages from the second portrait. So this is the Titanius cards, and I say that, dice group, not because I'm negative, but because it tends to balance out, you know, because I really care that my cards are realistic and faithful to what's going on in life. So I tend to observe that, and I tend to welcome it, to be honest. You know, as you know, I don't really shy away from challenging messages, because at the end of the day, they're challenging, but they're never really dramatic, except in some rare circumstances, which hopefully we won't experience, God willing. So let's go ahead and deal out your second portrait. Okay, dice group. So similar messages. Now we're seeing a person card. We've got the man and the house along with the bear. This clearly represents a person. We're seeing the scythe in the middle, and this is the standout card, to be honest. It is a very sharp change, and we are seeing this in light of your first set of cards that really builds on the idea of making these changes. This is an adventurous line. We've got the fish, again, really nice for the money aspect. So this is the second time we get the fish. It's here. And it really highlights the focus on your practical matters. Now, let's weave these cards together, as always, and we're gonna, I think, come back exactly to these ideas. The bear, scythe, and moon. So obviously with the bear is a change, not a change card. The stork is, and the scythe is. The bear is a strong card. As your cover card, it really places you in that position of power. And what it tells us is that you are in for growth and empowerment. This is a time when you really need to embrace a bit more of your strength, dice group, and really step up. Don't shy down. Don't make yourself small. You know, don't downplay your impact and things like that. Like you've got to be big, and you've got to embrace that side of you, especially at this time when you're making these changes. With the scythe and moon, we do see a radical change. It's potentially radical. The scythe is pretty sharp. And with the bear here, you've got to step up and make that change. Now, the moon tends to soften the scythe a little bit, and it could. So maybe the change is not so abrupt, but it is firm, you know, so the decision and the way you stand behind yourself, you need to be strong and firm, and I would say also uncompromising, which is interesting, by the way, because the anchor tends to be uncompromising. It tends to be a bit stubborn. So it's really a call for you to step up to this, and some things you're not going to compromise on. So the moon softens this a little bit, but still what I think is also happening is that the phase, there's a change of a phase. So the moon is about phases, you know, by association with the cycles of the moon. And when there are changes like this, it could be time to move into the next phase at this point. The moon can also bring up an opportunity. And I think we saw this in The bottom row here in the first layer, this could also be an opportunity, with the rider being a messenger. The moon brings offers, and we'll see in this combination that you could be negotiating some things here, and it could be with the man. It may well be with this person. So there can be a radical change that you're preparing for, that you need to execute, I should say, dice. And also there can be an opportunity that helps you with that, or it's part of the same package. The house, scythe, and ship. Wow. Very obvious, very obvious. The scythe and ship is a change of direction. Just like we saw with the child and road, there's a new direction. Except the scythe, again, it has that sharper quality. With the house, it can be a home change, a move. Of course, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're moving homes, but the idea is that there is a deep change that is happening in your foundations. And we saw this as well, with your first layer. So that's a pretty loud line. There's a change of direction here, dice group, and it's happening. The bear ship and the bear fish and ship, lovely. Lovely for money, for finances, for projects and work, adventures. Again, with the bear as your cover card, you need to step up to this and really embrace this adventure. This is about making things happen for you, creating more prosperity, going after goals. It is an active set of cards. And I think it's also a very positive set of cards. The ship is really good with money, and it does point to the idea of seeing money, like the return on your investment, the fruit of your effort, the results coming in. And on top of that, the bear and fish is often the combination of wealth. And so I really feel that here you are in for more money, more prosperity, but through your effort. Like, we're seeing the action here, and the responsibility on you is clear, but the results are coming in. And we also see this in the first layer, clover rider with the fish, and also this line here, remember the child ring and fish. There is more money coming in, there's an opportunity coming in. It's looking really good financially, and also in other practical aspects. And I have to insist that it's not necessarily through work, like a 9-to-5 job kind of situation. You might operate differently, and that is fine. The changes that you're making are enabling this opportunity, but the changes are on you to make happen. The second row, we have the man, the scythe, and the bird. So here, this the people element comes into play with the man and the bird. And the scythe can mean, it can go either way. It can either mean a sharp exchange where something is said that is completely off and possibly even hurtful. I'm not really seeing this as the main way to read the cards. Instead, what I'm seeing is that there could be an opportunity, and this man comes through. It's a bit like with the moon, where there can be a sharp change, and so here it is in the context of being in contact with this person. So this can be someone who presents the opportunity or opens the door somehow for you. There are also the possibilities around separating yourself from certain people, because after all, this is a change reading, and we are getting the change confirmed in the cards. So through that, dice group, you can expect that sometimes there are changes relative to certain relationships. So there can be someone that you break off from, in order to pursue these goals. So it can go in a couple of different ways depending on your specific scenario. Now, the house and the mouse and moon. Here, I think that the main insight of the card is fed through other cards, other lines. That the mouse and house is a wobbly state. The mouse brings issues and annoyances. It's not a tragically challenging card, but it causes uncertainty. And with the house and the scythe here, that really feeds it as well. I feel that the ground that you're on right now is wobbly. It's not as secure as you want it to be, thereby the changes. And again, with the moon here, the moon is surrounded by challenging cards, so it tends to bring out the dark side of the moon, whereas normally, by default, the moon card in Lenormand is kind of positive, but with these challenging cards, I think the darker side of the moon is coming through. And so in this context, I feel that the weaknesses of your current scenario, of the current situation, are starting to appear. And these are part of what is informing your decision to make the change, and wanting to pursue a direction that is more seriously supportive of your security and your financial direction and your direction in other practical ways. So in this line, I really feel that you're starting to see that the current situation is not working. So you're getting clarity about things that maybe weren't appearing so far. And I want to tie this immediately into the central column here. The fish, like we said, it tends to be associated with money and your financial aspect of life, other practical things. When I see the scythe and mouse, I really feel that something is being wasted and you have to stop that bleeding. And this is going to be part of the changes that you make. You have to stop these things that are wasting your resources, not contributing to a solid state, causing wobbliness and weaknesses. And so what you're going to do is, you come to see these weaknesses and you're going to make these changes that remove them. So you're making changes in order to move yourself from a state of wobbliness, uncertainty, leaks, and wastes into one that is solid and that has more integrity. Backing up here, we have the bear, man, and house. This really suggests to me a boss, or someone in authority, someone who has a say in things. Clearly, this is someone you tap into for the opportunity. And like I said, it can be someone you break off from, but there is also, in the transition, you meet people who pull you through into the new state, right? So there are people on this side and people on that side. And so the different lines can represent these different aspects of the story. And here, I feel this is someone who has quite a bit of authority, quite a bit of support, and I think they give you the backing, to make those changes. Now, in the ship, bird and moon, I really feel that you could be negotiating an offer, you could be negotiating the terms, and like I said, it doesn't have to be about the job, but this change into the more secure situation for you, it entails, understanding what it looks like, and it brings this person into the picture. So I feel that there is someone who comes in here to with whom you negotiate the path forward. The thing about the scythe, I have to say, Dice Group, is that you're kind of really in a sharp state of mind. And with your bear here as your cover card, I really fear you're not going to be messed with this time. I think you're going to impose your way to some extent. We also have the anchor here that is very strong, your bear. There are some things that you're not willing to negotiate, and that's what you need to be clear about. And I think that you are in a state where you are, you have confidence in yourself and you know what you want. So it's, some things are not going to be negotiable. I think the cards support you in having this kind of attitude. You're not mincing words, and you're going to be clear about what is acceptable and what is not acceptable. And that is part of what's going to contribute to your success. So these are some pretty powerful cards for you, Dice Group. You're on top of things clearly, and they are moving in that direction. Wonderful. So let's now move on to the third layer portrait, and I am using my own deck for this. This is a smaller deck. I like how I've got the big ones as the first layer and the smaller one at the top. It really helps visualize, interact visually with the cards better. So this is my own deck. Let us now draw the third layer. I'm curious to see what comes up for you, Dice Group. Ooh, another scythe. Okay, okay, dice group. So another scythe. I mean, just this card, honestly, I'm almost like done with the reading. Like I see this card, I'm like, okay, we get it. The scythe in key positions twice. It's a pretty strong card. We have the bear twice. They sort of switch places, right? Oh, that's cute. Scythe and bear, scythe and bear. Do you see that? Nice. And we have the whip. So the whip is also a heavy-handed card. And the child again. The mouse. Did we see the mouse? Yeah, we saw the mouse. We saw the mouse again. Look, the dice group. It's the same idea is coming through. This is definitely a big change. This is an empowering change, and this is no joke. Okay. Dice group. I don't have a nicer way of putting it, and honestly, I wouldn't want to. Yes, we can weave the lines. We will weave the lines, but honestly, I'm just seeing the same, the same thing almost. Yes, we have the woman, mouse, fox. Okay, I think that's detail in the context of the bigger picture, in the context of the key card positions and the doubling of the cards across the layers. So I'm getting a clear message that you're in for a big change, and at this point there's no mincing words, dice group. This is you're doing it. So let's go ahead. Scythe, bear, and whip. So this is a big confrontation and a big separation. And it's very clear that at this point you're gonna step up and do it, and there's, I would say, almost like there's no turning back kind of situation. So at this point with the whip, it can point to a confrontation possibly with someone, or it can be the idea of really grabbing the bull by the horns. The whip is a very energetic card, and so at this point you're gonna draw the line, and that's it. The bear really encourages you. It is a card of strength and power. It's your central card, and the scythe is your cover card, and it has that really sharp energy. This is also a really good spread and line and set of cards and combinations that tell you that you need to be decisive. You need to be decisive. You don't want to wobble anymore. Okay, this is where that's it. The mouse, bear, and child is actually the wobbly kind of energy. We saw this in your second portrait, where we felt that, well, some things are kind of wobbly, and I think this is what you want to get out of your life as well. So anything that is on shaky ground, and notice that we have the mouse and house, and the mouse and house again. So again, this house here is very much about foundations and what you're building. So there are weaknesses in these structures, dice group, and you are coming to terms with this, and you are being decisive about the need to not have such wobbliness in your life. So you're really taking charge at this point, and you're going to turn the page on this and move into something that's going to prove more solid for you. The child and bear is an important new beginning. The bear is, again, that active card that steps up. So definitely stepping up to this new beginning. Here we go again. Scythe, garden, and child. So the scythe and garden is obviously a parting from a place, and the child and garden is a new place. So again, very straightforward cards are appearing in this layer as well. This is definitely for a change. You are moving from one place going to another. It can be physical in this sense, or it could be like a metaphorical change. And of course, both can happen. The tree, bear, and fox is very good for growth. So the tree and bear have quite a bit in common. They're strong, they're solid. The tree has that element of evolution. It sort of unfolds, and the bear has that element of stepping up to responsibility. It's the boss, it's the senior card, things like that. So together there is a sense of growth and promotion. And I have to say, dice group, the fox is about work, and we could be looking at the job element here. We did have the fish several times, twice. And so there is again that element of work, your money, your income, your disciplines, your routines. It could be on the job or in your business, depending on how you work. But what you're seeing here in the second line is a sense of growth, empowerment, more responsibilities. I would also say better routine and better disciplines. So now with the changes, you are focusing on the things that work, right? So we said the wobbly things have to go. Right, here it is in the second row, the bleeding, the waste. There are some things that you're doing that are not working. You're coming to terms with them, and you're going to grab the bull by the horns, and you're going to say, what is not working has to go, and now we need to focus on what works. So this is nice. The second row is telling you about building the disciplines that are going to deliver on the results. The bottom row, we have the mouse, woman, and whip. So here there can be, where I felt initially, there could be a confrontation. There could be a problem with someone. We also suggested in the second portrait, where we saw the scythe and bird, and I suggested that, when you make changes, sometimes part of these changes is releasing certain relationships. And we could be seeing this here as well. Now, something else I feel could come to mind, could be part of the situation, is that perhaps someone is causing you or contributing to this waste, to the problems, to the wobbliness, and perhaps this involves setting that person straight, or being clear about the boundaries, and that this is not going to fly anymore. So this is a situation that could come up for some of you as well. Otherwise, more broadly, more loosely, there is that fallout. As you make changes, as you let go of what doesn't work, you sort of, you let go of sort of the whole package, and the package involves people, places, all the elements of that circumstance. So we could be seeing this here as well. Again, the scythe and tree and mouse. So the scythe and tree, very clear combination of uprooting, cutting off, right? Cutting the branches, cutting the roots. Something that is not working has to change. Again, the mouse is like this element of loss and waste and wobbliness in your situation, and that can't continue, dice group. So you are taking sharp, like a sharp approach to this. You're taking a sword at this, and you're going to uproot what isn't working. So again, we're seeing these changes again and again in your cards. The garden bear and woman. Interesting, because this mirrors a little bit what we saw in the second line here, second portrait, in this line in the second portrait, where we have the bear and woman, we have the bear and man, we have the house, which is a card of place. We also have the garden, that is a card of place. So very interesting how it's clear there is an important meeting with someone you're going to tap into to enable this this change. I can also suggest, dice group, that you could be the one who is in this position, right? Because we've got your bear in key positions of the portrait. It's clear that you're in for growth and empowerment. And so, this could be someone who helps pull you up, or support you. They could also be someone specialized or some kind of expert, whom you tap into, to make that change. So a clear message through your portraits here is that there is an important meeting with someone, or that you need to tap into the right person, as it were, someone who could support you, someone who would know, who has the experience and the authority, to support you with your change, with the expertise you need, or whichever way they sort of fit into your exact scenario. So I really appreciate this parallel. Very interesting. Okay, so remember that person. Remember to seek that kind of support. Make sure it's the right support. The child, fox, and whip. So again, this new beginning and an aggressive change. The fox, I feel in this line, is a little bit like the mouse, the things that aren't working, the wobbly thing that's not clear, it's not really there. The fox is a trickster, and even though it's really good with work and disciplines, which we see that it does play that role in some lines. With the whip, it can also suggest that what isn't 100% on the same page as where you are, where you want to go, it has to go. And on the other side here, with this combination, it can point to this new job, this new opportunity, potentially a new customer. Again, that detail depends on your specific scenario. But you're definitely getting something out of your life, dice group. There's definitely something that needs to go. There's something that is not working. You are seeing this. You're seeing this honestly and sharply, and I congratulate you on this. Clarity is the greatest gift, and you are making a big change here. So really hard to not see the strength of these cards and the strength of the energy that they bring to you at this stage. Let's wrap up with what is essentially my favorite part of the 3D portrait, is looking at all three layers of the portrait. So, well, here you go. Stork, bear, scythe. I mean, it's obvious at this point, right? This is a big change. It's a big release. And you also need to stand behind your decisions. So very important to be decisive at this point. If you need to think a little bit more about this, make sure you land on the right decision, because you want all of your energy behind it. Here's the fish in the middle, the road fish and garden. This is great for money. This is great for income and business. You could be, looking at going into a certain market. You could be networking, you could be selling, just outreach. It can also be investments and things like that. It's all about your goals, your financial goals and other aspirations as well. Let's look at these cards here. Well, two child cards. Here we go, 2 child cards. Look at these, 2 child cards with the ship in between. Well, what does that tell you? A new direction, very straightforward. Very straight. And the fact that we have 2 really sort of doubles up the energy. So, I mean, the portrait is really loud with regards to this change and this new direction. The cross, man, and tree. Now, this can be, again, someone important comes into the picture. I think they come with support. The cross here can mean that they help you assess things, and with the tree, there is also that contemplative quality where you need to weigh things out. And again, I'm seeing that you have access to some people who could really help you with this, what is essentially a really big change. So I'd say, dice group, take the time to be with these people, because you need that insight. Your central cards. Well, here we go. Another scythe bear combination. This is really loud in and of itself. Like, if we didn't look at anything else in the 3D portrait, just the fact that we have the scythe and bear twice in these key positions really says a lot. It says a lot about this big change that you're about to make. What's interesting is that the scythe and anchor, to me, points to the idea of releasing. It's a bit like releasing the bind, so the anchor is stuck and the scythe cuts it off. So you're releasing yourself from that chain, from the restriction, from where you are right now, and making a big change, with the bear. So very exciting. Moving on to this triplet here. Nice. The ring and the bird and the fox. I like this combination, because I remember that we were looking at how you were going to negotiate. Yes, in here, in the second line, in the right column of your second portrait with the bird, you were negotiating the terms. And I really like the fox here because it focuses you on your goals and your sense of self-interest. So really, I want to be honest about this, dice group. This is not a time for, the whole situation is not focusing you on the kindness, the emotions, it's not the focus. The focus is really practical. You really need to negotiate what's in your best interest. You can't mince words. You're not fooling around. So you're really serious about what is ahead for you. And if you can Negotiate, you certainly want to. You want to negotiate the terms, negotiate the connections, and be sure you put yourself first. So I think this is like a set of cards that is really honest about this, okay? This is about you putting yourself first. So negotiate as much as is in your best interest. I also want to suggest that when it comes to certain people, connections, the conversations, you want to also not share everything that you have in mind. The fox is discreet. There can be some noise around you, and I think you need to, downplay that. It's going to be part of the bigger picture of the changes that you make and removing anything that's wobbly. But I feel that at this stage, you're not really interested in what everyone has to say. You're focused only on, what's going to bring the results. And that's the advice, actually. Let's look at this triplet here. We have the clover and the house and mouth. This is lovely. Again, remember a few times we read the mouse, we suggested that there is something that is wobbly. And I love the clover because it really helps you see that. And what is also nice is that it has a protective energy. So here's what, the mouse, if you leave it unchecked, it grows into something big. So that's when it becomes a big problem. But with a card like the clover, which has that protective element, you're able to prevent that. So your sense of clarity, your sharpness, your understanding, it is really helping you, put this in check. And this is where we said that you're going to be very sharp with removing what isn't working. So this is fixing stuff, closing off the waste, preventing more bleeding. It's like you're covering the holes, if you like. And sometimes these cards can be read very literally, so if you're doing something like a home renovation, this would mean fixing all of the things that are, not working. But of course, your spread is not about a home renovation, Dice Group. This is about a big change that you're making. And we're seeing here a really nice protective element that helps you that helps you prevent the issues from growing into something bigger because you are taking charge. Now, let's look at this one. Again, the mouse. So the rider, mouse, and woman. Like we suggested a few times, the relationship aspect in your 3D portrait sort of goes in two different aspects. There is the element where there is someone of support that you can tap into, and there's also the element of the relationships that are falling through, that you're potentially confronting, that are part of this leakage situation that you're taking care of. And this is what we're seeing here, a relationship that is sort of a bit of a drag. We saw also the woman as part of this line of the third portrait. And so here it is highlighting the relationships that you feel are not really, they drag you a little bit, and they cause you some annoyances, and so these are part of the relationships that you're going to be putting in check as you make this sharp change. Finally, here we have the fish and the moon and whip. So the whip is a challenging card. It can, like I said, highlight the darker side of the moon. We saw the moon a few times with challenging cards, and we're seeing it again with the whip. So really, the dark side of the moon is coming into view. And we are really seeing that you're able to catch and see through the weaknesses, the issues, the problems. And with the fish here, it can be in terms of your money, the source of income, maybe the other practical aspects of your life. So you are taking charge of this area very, very firmly at this time, Dice Group, and it is definitely encouraged to do this. I would say offers that are not supportive, halfway houses, too much compromise, this is not going to work out. Like we saw, there are some things that you are going to be really strong about. There are some things that you're not going to negotiate, and that's what you're negotiating. So you're negotiating that these items, this is not subject to compromise. And if there are offers that are not up to par, Dice Group, I think at this stage you're not going to hesitate to say no. And so this is also what we're seeing through this triplet. So I have to say, Dice Group, this is one powerful set of cards. This is no joke. This is heavy. This is sharp. This is a big deal. It's a big step. I'm really, really curious to know what you're going through. If you're willing to share, please leave me a comment or two. I'm interested to know. I really want you to step into your power. If you're feeling wobbly, if this is also part of your inner wobbliness, then give it a bit of time and a bit of thought. But I think that once you decide, you really need to stand behind your decision. So see if you can bring yourself up to that point, because I think this is looking like a change with not much return in the cards. Okay, so it's a big step forward, and it is in your best interest. Let me know how you like this reading. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm looking forward to our next Pick-A-Card reading together. And as always, thank you for watching. And until then, take very good care of yourself. Welcome, Scissors Group, to your reading. We are doing the 9-card portrait, starting with the Game of Hope, the bigger deck. So instead of breaking down the ideas of changes and challenges and opportunities into 3 different layers, it's best to go with the cards and to see what each layer wants us to know about. And then we're going to tie everything together so we'll have an overall story. And I've been seeing so far through the 2 Pick-A-Card readings that the changes are quite impressive, I have to say, Scissors Group. So let's go ahead and deal out your portrait and see what kind of energies are in play for you with regards to changes and opportunities and challenges that are literally in the cards for you. So let's go right ahead and deal out your portrait. Okay, Scissors Group, I think if you're able to know what these cards are, you can tell that this too is going to be a big transition. There is a significant ending, and there is a potentially quick one. I am also seeing here the idea of really taking charge, and you may need to be a little bit more aggressive, towards making the changes and bringing something to a head. I also see a confrontation potentially with someone. This is either directly in a relationship or in a situation. We have the clouds as your cover card and the rider as the center card. So the clouds is about thoughts and thinking. It's a psychological card. And the rider is active. It can point to messengers and news and things like that, but that's really not what role it is playing for you in this portrait. Instead, it is much more about being active and taking initiative to confront certain matters. Now, I usually start with the diagonals, but I have to say, Scissors Group, that the line that stands out to me first is this one. The clouds and the cross and the snake. I really think that you need to make up your mind about something. And I think this has been weighing on you. I think this could be the reason you were held back. There is a sense of hesitation, confusion, and not really seeing, not really knowing what is the best path moving forward. With the cross and snake, more so than in other readings, in this Pick-A-Card, more so than the others, I'm seeing for you the real need to assess the situation, to assess your options, and to make decisions. And I think you're going to need to spend a bit more time on this part of the change, of the unfolding, because you are in this situation, in this state of not really seeing as clearly as you could. I also suspect, Scissors Group, that with the snake and cross, you might need to make some sacrifices. So you might need to be clear about what matters more, and something will need to fall out in favor of your priority. So that's why I feel this line stands out most to me in terms of how the story unfolds. And what's nice is that it's also on the left-hand side, which tends to be associated with the earlier aspects of a story, most of the time, sometimes. So let's now look at the diagonals. The first diagonal is quite a line, I have to say. We have the rider and the whip, and notice that in this deck, the rider has a whip in his hand, and then we have the whip on the other side of the card. And so this is a clear combination that points to literally cracking the whip, really like confronting the situation. The clouds, in this sense, can mean that in order to gain more clarity, you need to do this. So this can be a straightforward confrontation with someone. Maybe you need to dig some things out. Maybe you need to make a point. Whatever this looks like specifically in your context, you need to do it in order to get more clarity and in order to get things moving. So the way the line works is that it not only helps you understand things better, but it helps you move things forward. So you need to get out of your head and to get out of this state of confusion and hesitation and wobbliness and really take active steps forward, a confrontation, forward movement, other kinds of issues you need to force out of the water as a way to see what's going on. The snake, rider, and anchor is quite opposite in energy. The whip is very outward and aggressive. The snake is passive aggressive. And we have the rider and anchor. Now, the way I read these two together is that you want to stick with this until you land on a conclusion. The rider and anchor has to do with this idea of arriving, especially in this order. And the snake is a tricky card. It's a slower card. It tends to be roundabout and indirect. It can also suggest toxic people, deception, and things like that. And so all of this is going to be brought out. And in addition to this idea, there is also the idea of sticking with it. Why? Because in my dictionary, I read the snake and anchor as the idea of wanting to give up on something, but the cards are advising you not to. The cards are advising you to give it a chance. So the way I'm seeing this for you, Scissors Group, is that you want to crack the whip and work at this until you see yourself through. I think this is a bit of work. Actually, all of the pick-a cards in this session have been. And it works well with this idea here that we saw in the first line that I said stood out to me. The idea of needing to assess things. So you really need to stick with this until you see yourself through. It's going to take a bit of energy on your part, and it's going to take a whole lot of honesty. Let's look at the top row. This is another very expressive and clear triplet. We have the clouds, the coffin, and the anchor. The anchor and coffin together points to a final situation. So this is an ending with a lot of a conclusive and final energy. The clouds here can mean that you've been hesitating to do this, Scissors Group. And I really think it's weighing on you. You know, we see this in this line. The cards are calling on you to be active and even somewhat aggressive. So this is a line that's telling you that you really need to focus on bringing this to a close. The cross, rider, and bear is, again, it ties into this line with the cross and the point between the two. This has to do with taking charge along with the bear. It has that sense of burden, but you really need to bear that cross, Scissors Group, and you need to move forward. You need to take that step. I feel that these cards are also telling us that it's on you. So they're heavy, and the cross is that cross you bear. The bear takes charge, the rider takes initiative, and the cards are generally heavy. So Scissors Group, it is on you, okay? And I want you to accept this, because the sooner you accept this, the sooner you'll be able to take action, and the sooner you'll be able to get out of this situation of being stuck in that nebulous state. And here's the bottom row again. We'll see there are going to be positive messages, I'm sure. Just let's bear with me through this one. The snake and the ring and whip. Here's another pretty challenging line. Here it brings into the picture the ring, which is often a relationship. It can also be a commitment or involvement. And with the snake and whip, clearly this is the end of a relationship. You really need to break away from this. You need to break free. You need to get yourself out of this. These are some very straightforward cards. And in all honesty, they're quite heavy-handed. We read this line. I felt it's pretty critical. Here's another line that points to an ending. We have the coffin, with the ring and the rider, and it T crosses the snake and whip. So clearly this is the end of a relationship, an involvement, a commitment, or something that you've been committed to. And the two T crosses, in that the top row, T crossing the central column into the bottom row, the messages are repeating themselves, they're confirming each other. It's quite tight in terms of what the message is, and this is the end of a relationship. On top of that, as though it's not enough, the anchor, bear, and whip is a really strong combination of a confrontation. This is really like, I'm just missing the scythe, I'm just missing the scythe in order to suggest something like an outright confrontation, an outright fight, a competitive situation, that's pretty abrasive. So this is clear, very clear for you scissors group, that this has to end, this has to stop, and you have to get out of this, and you're going to make it happen in one way or another. Okay? The anchor and bear are very strong cards, so they really endow you with a lot of confidence. And you really need to stand your ground, and you're going to have to crack that whip, scissors group. So really there is no there's no way to sugarcoat this, and in all cases, me, I don't sugarcoat anything. But I'm also realistic, like I don't predict drama for the sake of drama or funny, things going on. I like to keep it grounded. And in this situation, it's clear that you really need to shift gears, and you need to get out of the state of not seeing, maybe not wanting to see, you tell me, and cracking the whip and bringing this relationship or this situation to a close, and getting out of it. So quite a handful here. Let's move on to the second layer of cards. This is Titania's deck. And we're going to overlay another portrait on top of them, and let's see what we get in this layer. Lovely cards, lovely cards. Okay, I told you, you're going to get some very beautiful cards. They tend to balance themselves out. Why? Because that's the way life is. There's a bit of everything. So the star is a wish fulfillment card. It's your first card. And we have the clover, also one of the luckiest cards of the deck. With the tower, either one suggests a long patch of good luck. So that is really lovely to see. We do have the whip again, so this is going to be a strong message. Yeah, here was the whip. A strong card for your 3D portrait this time around, scissors group. Really calling on you to grab the bull by the horns, as it were. But as you can see here, there is a change in the energies. There is an opening. There is also a whole lot of faith. I have to say, this is nice. So let's go ahead and weave these lines together. We have the star, the tower, and the bird. Now, there's a couple of ways we can read this. I think there's like a shallow way, and then there's a deeper way that I think is going to be more relevant to what's going on. So the shallow way would be the news. It can be some kind of message, some kind of decision. It can be some kind of announcement. The tower can be about some kind of authority. It can be a government thing, something administrative. And with the star, it's like there is positive feedback. It's like it answers your hope. You get a yes. You get an approval. The news is good, etc. That kind of thing. So that can figure, like I don't have to, I don't want to dismiss the possibilities. It can figure for you in the sense that it opens up a new opportunity. So in the first layer portrait, very clear, you're getting something out of your life, like pronto. And then in this layer, we're seeing that there's news that brings you a lot of hope to move forward in a new direction. Now, the deeper sense is that there is a deeper alignment in terms of the longer term path for you. So I think what's happening in the first layer, you're really shaking out a scenario, and that may well be very likely to be a chapter of sorts. And so what we're seeing here, is like there's a new phase, there's a new milestone ahead. The Tower is this card of longevity and the long term, either in the past or towards the future. And with the Star, it's really about healing, letting go, and moving forward. So I really think that there is a beautiful potential here to turn the page, and not just turning the page, but like really, healing and moving on. The bird can suggest, a bit of anxiety, a bit of malaise, a bit of, issues and a bit of noise, but that is fine because this is the transition, and it's also potentially about little trips, conversations, so things that get you moving in this new situation. And we see this very well in the right hand side column. Now the second diagonal is very beautiful. We have the clover on heart on either side of the Tower. Again, there's this long patch of good luck. So this is really the column after the storm. The storm being the stuff we saw in your first layer, and here there's the opening. And it does suggest, because of the Tower in the center specifically, that the coming phase is going to be, first, it's a bright, beautiful phase, and it's also going to stretch over the longer term. So the change is not just a temporary change. The change affects the longer term, and what's ahead is a lot more aligned with what you want. There's the Star, which really has to do with our highest aspirations, and the Tower. So really this idea of going for the top, and very beautiful messages for healing, turning the page, and forgiving the past. The Star, Child, and Heart. Here's another very beautiful combination. A new beginning is at hand. It is exactly what you want. It makes you happy. So again, I'm seeing this pull power in your cards coming out of your faith, your aspirations, and I think you also have a sense of deep self-appreciation for coming out of that storm and really making the changes and putting things to right. And so I feel here it's like very calming, and you're able to move forward. The Fox, Tower, and Ship is actually great for work and for your projects and your business or whatever it is you do. The Ship points to direction, and the Fox and Tower is about that sense of commitment to the longer term path. The Fox is really good with discipline, with doing the right things. Yes, it does have a tricky side, but with these beautiful cards around it, we'll leave the Whip a little bit for the time being. With these lovely cards around it, it can bring out, this lovely aspect of the Fox. So you can look forward to changing things around and putting yourself on a path that's going to lead to those successes and that direction that you're after. The thing about these cards is that they're a bit slower. The Tower is slower. The Ship is not particularly fast. And the Fox is calm and careful. And so I feel that what unfolds here is over the next phase. Like we said, you're moving into a new phase. So it's going to take some time to unfold. And this is about you putting yourself on that path and having that longer term vision. Now the Clover, Whip, and Bird is an interesting combination because typically these two together, Whip and Bird, are about gossip. And with the Clover, it could be good gossip. So some interesting things are being said. Maybe you hear something that actually advantages you. You could be taking advantage of some news. And this is also part of what helps you move forward. What's also likely, Scissors group, is that the Whip and Bird is again that confrontation, or saying what needs to be said. The Clover would soften this. Obviously, it's a very bright card. It's not like we've got the Whip and other challenging cards. So the Clover is going to help soften this energy a little bit, but it also supports you in saying what you need to say and doing what you need to do in order to move into this new direction. And the Whip T crosses the central column here. So the Whip is in common to both lines, and the Child and Tower is very much about a new chapter, and with the Whip it is about releasing the past, this challenge that you've experienced in the past. So I really think that you're in a position to turn the page, not in a shallow way, but in a deeper way, really releasing you over the coming phase. The star, fox, and clover is actually really good for work. If this is about a new job, it's clear that, you know, it's in the works. And if it's not, it's also about an opportunity. And the thing about the fox is that it's self-interested. So it is in your best interest, Scissors Group, to take advantage of these opportunities and make a change. The fox can be a tricky card. And so if this is again telling us about these tricky people or these unwelcome people, with the star and clover, I really feel that you are able to disarm them. So they lose their, you know, that sharpness. They lose that potential to be toxic. It's like they're neutralized. Okay, so that is also very lovely. And then the heart, ship, and bird here is what I felt in the first diagonal was that the bird, it can be a bit of an anxious causing card, but it's also good with like doing things, you know, it's good with a to-do list, with running errands, smaller kinds of things. And with the ship here and heart, you could be pursuing all sorts of little projects and lining yourself up for the big change. So I really feel that the bird could be telling us that you need to get busy with the next phase. You're gonna crack the whip, let go of this situation as we saw in the first layer, and then you're going to get busy with the small and the big stuff as you pursue this change and you move into this lovely chapter that is going to be unfolding for you over the coming phase. So just like I said, Scissors Group, the very challenging cards, you know, the heavy-handed cards in your first layer portrait are going to be balanced out with a brighter set of cards, because that's the way life unfolds. And so we're seeing here that this is a big deal of a new chapter. I mean, really the whole reading is a big deal. Okay, so let's now move on to the third portrait layer. I just want to move these a little bit to the side, and we are using my own deck. This is the smallest size of these. I like from large to small. It helps us see the cards better. I think it's visually more, it's more comfortable, it's more appealing. Let's go ahead and deal out your third portrait layer for you, Scissors Group, and see what more we get. Okay, here is a lovely set of cards. We get the clover a second time, and this is a lovely message, especially since your first portrait was quite a handful. It also stands out to me that you've got the clouds here in the middle, and honestly, you know, we saw that as your first card in the first portrait. I really feel that the thinking, the decision making, the thought process for you is going to be really important. This is very much about getting your head around things, about working through your thoughts and being decisive enough to make those changes. So really spending time understanding yourself, this is going to be key. Now, what's really nice in the first diagonal is that we have the clover on the other side of the clouds, and we have the anchor as your first card. This is as clear as daylight. If you spend just a little bit on the card combinations master, on any combinations guide and the card meanings, you will see how straightforward the message is here. The anchor is about staying put, and the clouds is about confusion, hesitation, and wobbliness. So what do you think it's telling us when they come together? The anchor and clouds is very much a suggestion that you stop wobbling, that you stop hesitating, and that you make a decision, that you come to a conclusion. Basically, this is about making up your mind. And notice that the anchor is your cover card. So this really empowers you, and I am confident that you will land on the right decision. On top of this, we have the beautiful clover. There is another special meaning here, and that is that the clover asks you not to doubt yourself. I think you don't give yourself enough credit. You have a lot more going for you than you might appreciate, and these cards are really turning your attention to that. The mountain, clouds, and sun is also very beautiful. The sun is an all-around card of brightness and success. And obviously, it shines its light really strong. And with the mountain here and clouds, you could have been stuck. You were stuck in your thoughts. You were stuck in your thinking. You aren't sure where to go, what to do. And the Sun is a beautiful card of clarity that brings insight and understanding. So in this layer, with the clouds in the center and with these key cards at the corners, it's very clear to me, Scissors Group, that you are going to work through your decision making. You're going to work through your thoughts. You're going to work quite a bit on understanding yourself, what's going on, and you're going to stand behind yourself. The Anchor and Lily and beautiful Sun. This is beautiful. It's a bit like the Tower, because they're both, the Tower and Lily, they are both cards of the longer term. They tend to bring into the picture the life path as opposed to shorter time periods. And with the Anchor, Lily, and Sun, it's very clear, Scissors, that you're in for a longer term patch of good luck. So again, just like we saw in the second layer, the same idea is coming through these cards. You're in for a phase of success. So this is, the beautiful calm after the storm, after the big changes in the that we saw in the first layer portrait. We're seeing again the idea that you are moving into a more peaceful situation, a more peaceful life path, and one that leads to success. So it's a lovely change that lands you in this beautiful situation. Now the Star, Clouds, and Fish is another suggestion, a bit like the Clover and Clouds. We're seeing the Star and Clouds. It's another suggestion that you have faith in yourself. Don't doubt yourself. You have what it takes. You are able to deal with this. You are able to shake it out and make a change. The Fish and Clouds would normally point to expenses and things like that, but this is not a day-to-day spread. Instead, what I'm seeing here, this could be more about your security, your financial goals, other goals, your aspirations also on a bigger scale can be captured by the Fish, a bit like the Star. So with the Clouds here, you want to make up your mind about what you really want. So again, there's a thought process that is in focus for you here, Scissors Group. You want to think about your security, think about your goals, financial and otherwise. The longer term picture is coming into play, and so the Clouds is really inviting you to sit and think about this. In the bottom row, we have the Mountain, Dog, and Clover, and this is, I think, the only time just about, well, actually no. Yes, we do have relationships in your first portrait, and so the dog is coming with this theme again, and this is going to be quite a powerful triplet we'll get to in a bit. So with the Mountain, Dog, and Clover, there can be possibilities that come through with people. I think with the Mountain here, it can be in a different place or possibly online, or possibly there was some distance between you and someone else, but the Clover would close that gap, one, and two, it can bring a lot of support through people. So on the other side of the changes, where some relationships fall out, there are other relationships that come to your support, and possibly new relationships that you make through the transition. And I see this often, by the way. It makes sense, obviously, because each scenario, each circumstance has its places, its conditions, its people. And on the other side of that, when you make a change, also the new situation is associated with a place, people, energies, and so forth. So we'll see both when we are looking at a change reading. I see this often. The Anchor, Star, and Mountain is lovely for reaching to the top. Yes, the Mountain can point to a place abroad. Maybe the change that you make has to do with, going somewhere else, and that is certainly well supported. But it is also about pursuing your goals. And also, again, with the Anchor and the Star, my dear Scissors Group, have faith in yourself, okay? Climb that mountain. You'll be fine. You are guided, and it's time for change. So don't waste too much time wobbling. Do your thinking and stand behind yourself as you make that change. The Lily, Clouds, and Dog, again, bringing into the picture some people, friends, colleagues, or whoever. The Lily and Clouds, it can sort of put into question how far this relationship goes, how long this relationship goes. There can also be a few differences that came up. And I think because of the lily, they could be a bit deeper differences. Now, these cards are not in any way as aggressive as we saw in the first layer portrait. So this is again about thinking about your relationships, whom you carry over into the phase, who you're releasing. You might have had doubts about some people. The clover would certainly help overcome that, as the T crosses the bottom row. So again, things are reshaping, changing, and that is also part of it. I don't think it's the biggest part of it, but it's part of it. The sun, fish, and flowers is lovely all around. The clover, sun, and star. I mean, notice 3 of the brightest cards of the deck figuring here. And by the way, we have the star twice. Isn't that lovely? The star twice and the clover twice. Nice. And so with the sun, fish, and clover, it's very good for prosperity and abundance in a general way. Financially, it's great too. It's also great with your bigger goals. And I think beyond this, with this line, we are seeing a sense of flow. So there is that movement. You know, the fish is fluid. It swims, the water flows, things like that. The sun and clover are very bright. So it's like you find your flow. You find yourself and you're able to, you know, embrace the goodness that is meant for you, the success that you're lining yourself up for, this new chapter that is going to unfold over a longer period of time. You know, you're getting a sense of the blessings now that you're on the other side of what is a challenging transition. So these are some really exciting cards for you, Scissors Group. And like I said, you know, the cards will balance themselves out. You know, the challenges are always balanced out with bright cards. Let's wrap up with the 3D element of this, where we look at all 3 layers. Lovely. The clouds, a star, and anchor. So again, we saw this a couple of times here. The star and clouds. We saw this combination here in the second portrait, third, and we're seeing it again here. The clouds and star with the anchor really telling you to have faith in yourself, to also make a decision about your longer term aspirations, and to, to stand behind yourself. So this is great for achieving insight, clarity, faith, and with the anchor really standing behind yourself with this. Lovely cards. In the second one here, what do we have? Here we go. I mean, it's just so clear. You know, the coffin and child, ending, beginning, lily, life. Well, what do you make of it? A new life chapter, okay? A new phase, a new milestone, okay? Very clear, very clear. Lovely. The anchor, heart, and sun. This is, so here's another anchor. I wonder, is there a third one in the second portrait? No. So we have 2 anchors. And again, you know, having faith in yourself, having confidence in yourself, and also sticking with the relationships that support you if we're going to read the heart as a relationship. But this is also a beautiful conclusion. So, you know, on the other side of this change, on the other side of this stormy transition, there is a sense of appreciation and well-being across the board. And that's really an understatement with these cards. So these are really, really bright. Let's look at this interesting triplet with the fox in here. Nice. I like this. Cross, fox, and star. I really think it's time for you to put yourself first. You might need to make some sacrifices, some difficult decisions. Some things are tricky, but again, you're going to have the clarity to come through that and to make the right decisions. And again, it can mean possibly some sacrifices, but with the star, these are going to be the right ones. And it's important also to put yourself first. So I think you underestimate a little bit yourself, Scissors Group. I'm really seeing this across a few combinations. Now here are the middle cards. We have the Rider, Tower, and Clouds. They're kind of mute. You know, they're not as clear and crisp as other combinations. So this is going to be the long-term Scissors Group. And this is going to be the vision for the longer term. So this is what you are thinking about. This is what is forming. This is what is important. The Rider and Tower is very clearly a combination about your long-term goals. And the Clouds really asks you to think about that. Like really having the long-term vision in focus. So work on that, and the rest is detail that feeds into it. What do we have here? The bear, ship, and fish. This is great for money. The bear and fish is very good for wealth. The ship is great for wealth as well. It tends to point to returns on investments, literally sales. And with the bear, you could be in for an empowering phase in this regard. So it's looking good when it comes to money and practical matters, even if it's not money. Looking at here, we have the snake, clover, and mountain. Obviously, the snake is a bit challenging, but with the clover and mountain, you're gonna be able to overcome the challenges, the obstacles, the blockages. Something else comes through. This the way we saw the star, fox, and clover, and I suggested that you neutralize some negative energy or some negative intentions or someone trying to play a trick on you. You're able to neutralize them. While the same idea comes through with the clover and snake. The snake and fox, they're similar. They're trickster cards, deceptive cards. And so with the clover, you're going to be able to neutralize this. And with the mountain, you'll be able to put a stop to it, like the boundary comes up. So that's lovely. In another sense, you could be getting around some obstacles. You could be looking at an indirect way to solve a problem. That too is fine. And then if you're looking to make a move or a change in a different location, we do have a few change cards here in terms of the ship, then that too is supported. Now this combination, we touched on it a little bit. We have both the ring and dog with the whip between them. This is pretty loud and clear, scissors. There could be a breakup, a separation. Something falls through. Like we said, when you make a change, often, you're leaving one scenario, circumstance that has its people, places, and energies into a new one. So we tend to see the people you leave and the people you join. And the last triplet here, we have the whip, bird, and clover. This is interesting because we saw the whip and bird in the second one. So we're seeing this combination twice. So there can be a tough conversation or in fact some good gossip. Oh, wait, there's more. We have the exact same triplet. In the second portrait, we have clover, whip, and bird. And in this triplet, we have whip, bird, and clover. Now that's loud and clear. So there is either some very lucky gossip that you come through a scissors group, so something is said that is really to your advantage, or the difficult conversation, whether it's a quarrel or an upright confrontation or some kind of disagreement, is resolved in the most positive ways. This is good news on the other side of a challenge. This is the first time I see this in a 3D portrait. It's the first time I see two triplets coming up like this. So that's a decent sign. I'm going to suggest, scissors group, for those of you who read Lenormand, I'm going to suggest you pick up a combinations dictionary, whether it's mine or someone else's, and maybe take away this 3D portrait and do your own digging as well. It's fascinating. So scissors, let's wrap it up. This is beautiful. This is exciting. I hope for you to embrace your strength. Do the thinking. For you, what stood out to me is the thinking, the thought process. It's important that you work through this, work through your thoughts, and then you're going to manifest the change. And there's so much good that is in store for you. This is turning into a new phase, and this too is very clear in your cards. Not like a short-term phase. This is a life chapter that we're looking at, a longer-term phase. So it's very exciting what's happening, and we also see prosperity and lucky cards and your aspirations, and you could really be lining yourself up for growth, for long-term growth. I really hope you embrace that. Lovely, lovely cards, scissors. I'm gonna let you go. Let's close this 3D portrait here. I'm looking forward to your thoughts, your comments, as always. Very best of luck with this superb transition. And until next time, thank you so much for watching, and take very good care of yourself.